Hi, my name is Rebecca Schwartzman, and my grandma was a Jew who was saved by Oskar Schindler in the Holocaust. The first time my grandma met Oskar Schindler, she was on a train car that was bound for Auschwitz, but it had stopped for some reason, and she didn't really know why it had stopped, and she never found out. But the train car was freezing, the doors were frozen shut. It was really cramped quarters, so they were pressed up against people who had already died on the train car, and it was absolutely miserable. Eventually the door opened, and Oskar Schindler walked in and asked if everyone was all right. Now, my grandma was really sick at the time, and she looked like absolute crap. She described that she was filthy, she was covered in pus, her clothes were ripped, she had lost a bunch of weight, so she was just skin and bone, and she was pretty much about to die. And so someone pointed it out and said, this girl is really sick, she needs to go to the hospital or something. And he was wearing his nice clothes, he was wearing a suit, he was all dressed up, and he didn't hesitate. He bent down and picked her up and comforted her, told her that everything was going to be okay, and took her to the hospital. Once she had recovered enough to be released from the hospital, he took her back to his factory, and he didn't make her work, he just kept her there. His wife fed her and made her extra food and made her extremely comfortable until she was ready to work. And even in the night, Oskar would come and visit her with a sandwich that his wife had made for him and give it to her because he knew that she needed it more than he did. And he was just an amazing guy to my grandma. He is the #1 reason she survived the Holocaust, and the reason that she is able to tell me this story. Absolutely. I think that he was one of the heroes of World War II. He went to such extraordinary lengths to save the people that he had in his camp. He was so charismatic, he just loved each one of them, and he did everything he could for them. I mean, once my grandma got to the camp, she realized what the fast aid was, I guess you could say. She realized that it wasn't actually a Nazi work camp, it was a running factory, and that the people who were working there were being paid for what they were doing, and they were being rewarded, and they were being treated humanely and well, as people should be. He'd even gone to such lengths as to put up a wall around his factory, not so that people couldn't get out, but so that people couldn't see in. And not so that people couldn't see in to hide what was going on for the worse, but because what was going on in there was exactly against what the Nazis and the SS patrol wanted. And so he didn't want them to see in, and because he didn't want to be shut down. He didn't want his factory to be shut down, and he didn't want his workers to be taken away to the actual concentration camps where they would be killed. Absolutely not. I don't think that Schindler was anywhere near a war criminal. I mean, he was part of the Nazi Party because he was swept up by their ultranationalistic views. He wasn't part of them, or by the ultranationalistic propaganda. He wasn't part of it because he actually believed in their views, and that is evident by the fact that he was able to turn around and completely betray the party and say that he was still part of it, but just to get what he needed. He was such a charismatic person. He saved so many people. He ran his factory into the ground. I mean, he came out of the war with absolutely nothing. He had nothing left. He had spent all of his money trying to save those people. He had bribed with countless SS police. He had just done everything that he could to make sure that the people in his factory could be saved. So, I definitely don't think he was a war criminal. I think that Spielberg made a film about it because it's part of his history, right? Steven Spielberg is Jewish, and when he just got really interested in the topic, and I was reading a couple interviews with him that said it was the first nonfiction film that he made, and he went overseas. He went to Poland. He wanted to experience everything. He wanted to see what those people saw. He wanted to just be part of it. And I mean, some people say that Spielberg's grandparents were saved by Schindler, and I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, even I, as a Jew in society today, am very interested. I would be very interested to go over and see everything that happened, be able to just experience it, or as much of it as I could firsthand. No, I don't think that Schindler took advantage of his Jews. I mean, he did so much for them during the war. He ran his company into the ground. He had nothing left at the end of the war. He betrayed so many people. He risked so much. He put his life on the line. He just was so considerate and was so selfless that the fact that I think that he takes money from the Jews, they offer it to him. He's got nothing left. He went crazy after the war. I mean, he sunk into alcoholism. I honestly don't even think that's his fault. He saw so much and experienced so much. I don't even know. I would have gone crazy too, probably. But, so yeah, no. To say that he's taking advantage of the Jews is, I think, stepping across a line. It's more so they want to give back. They want to help him out and to do just as much as they can for the person who helped them to survive the Holocaust.
Hi, my name's Stacy Jones. I am currently studying at McMaster, specifically History, World War II, and Oskar Schindler. To be honest, I don't think Oskar Schindler was the best person I would have ever met. He seemed like a man of opportunity, and you would never know what was coming next. First of all, he obtained this factory during Kristallnacht, when he kicked all the Jews that were in the factory out of it, and then made lots of money off of it. Oskar Schindler was part of the Nazi Party and fully believed in what they believed in to begin with, and he just changed his personality so many times. I personally think he was a little crazy, because at the beginning of the war, he was all for the Nazi Party and was just a very big supporter of them. But then in the middle of the war, he kind of had an identity crisis and started to save all the Jewish people. And then at the end, when the war was over, he just snapped and became a major alcoholic. But I think he was an alcoholic his entire life. But at the end, he had nothing left and he could not make anything work. Oskar Schindler was not a war criminal. He did not have any unjustified killings at his camps or mistreat his prisoners. However, in the eyes of his nation, he could have been tried for treason because he went against everything that they believed in and everything they were standing for at that time. Absolutely, I think he was an alcoholic. He had alcohol abuse problems his whole life, and they only got worse after the war. During the war, he used to go to some meetings and he'd have to bribe people if they knew about his factory. So he would go with all his whiskey and brandy and just get absolutely drunk and come home and be completely irresponsible about all the prisoners he had at his camp. And he just couldn't function when he was drunk, which was most of the time, so he had to take advantage of everyone. I think he was definitely caught up by all the propaganda and the ultranationalist views of the Nazis, and so that kind of accounted for the first half of his life and his nationalist views then. But then because of the ultranationalist views being forced on him, it kind of made him switch his perspective and become a nationalist on the side of the Jewish people, but he was forced to ultranationalist measures by the circumstances of the Nazi Party.